The Great Sphinx has kept its deepest secret for thousands of years. This video explores the compelling evidence for hidden chambers beneath this ancient monument and what they might contain. You will gain a complete understanding of one of archaeology's most tantalizing modern mysteries, from the first clues to the revolutionary theories. We will examine why cutting-edge technology detects voids deep in the bedrock and what forgotten texts say is sealed away. Could a lost library or artifacts that rewrite history be waiting in the dark? What do you believe is truly hidden beneath the stone? Its very body is a geological riddle carved directly from the plateau's living rock. To understand the possibility of hidden chambers, we must first listen to the silent testimony of the Sphinx itself. This is not a statue placed upon the ground, but one born from it, an integral part of the Giza landscape. The limestone from which it was sculpted is naturally porous, a bedrock known to contain fissures, sinkholes, and caverns formed by water erosion over millennia. This simple geological fact provides the most logical foundation for the existence of subterranean spaces. The ancient builders did not ignore these natural features. They were brilliant adapters, often incorporating caves or voids into their monumental architecture, turning potential weaknesses into sacred strength. Consider the shape, a colossal guardian in a perpetual state of repose, its lion's body merging seamlessly with the earth. In many ancient traditions, such a form was not merely artistic, it was symbolic, a sentinel placed deliberately to watch over a hallowed space beneath. Early explorers in the 1800s documented oddities, like what appeared to be sealed shafts or tunnels around the base, features that seemed too regular to be purely natural yet were quickly covered by sand and time. These architectural whispers suggest a deliberate intention, a design that works with the land to hide something within it. The Sphinx, therefore, is our first and greatest clue, its entire form posing a question carved in stone, leading our curiosity from the sun-baked surface down into the cool, unseen dark below. These whispers from the stone are amplified by voices from the past. While our tools are new, the idea that the Sphinx conceals something profound is ancient history. Centuries before modern scanners, the Roman scholar Pliny the Elder wrote of vast, seemingly endless natural caverns beneath the sands of Giza, a description that goes far beyond a simple tomb or quarry. This is not an isolated note. Jump forward over 1,000 years to the writings of the Arab historian al-Makrizi in the 15th century. He recorded a powerful local tradition, one passed down through generations, that spoke of the Sphinx not just as a statue, but as a vigilant guardian. It was said to watch over a sealed library, a hall of records containing the accumulated wisdom of a civilization lost to time. Think about the weight of that idea. A library hidden not in a temple or a palace, but in the earth beneath a mythical beast. This legend is not a random invention. It feels like a cultural memory, a story that persists because it touches on a deeper truth about the site's purpose. And the clues reach back even further, carved in stone itself. Between the massive paws of the Sphinx stands the dream stele, erected by the pharaoh Thutmose IV during the New Kingdom. It recounts how, as a young prince, he fell asleep in the shadow of the monument and dreamed that the Sphinx itself spoke to him. It promised him the throne of Egypt if he would free it from the engulfing desert sand. This is more than a royal publicity story. It reveals how the Sphinx was perceived not as a passive sculpture, but as a powerful, sentient entity with the authority to grant kingship, a being intimately connected to hidden knowledge and destiny. So when we look at these sources together, from Pliny's caverns to al-Makrizi's library to the Sphinx's own dream voice, a pattern emerges. They form a historical paper trail, a consistent narrative thread that spans cultures and millennia. This tells us the search for chambers is not some modern fantasy conjured by treasure hunters. It is a pursuit with ancient roots, a mystery that our ancestors also pondered, leaving us their cryptic notes and urging us to keep looking. That ancient paper trail would finally lead to a tangible discovery in the modern age. The year was 1926, and a French engineer named Émile Barrès was overseeing the immense task of clearing centuries of accumulated sand from around the Sphinx. It was a monumental effort, revealing the full scale of the statue for the first time in living memory. But the true surprise lay not in what was above the sand, but in what was hidden below it. As his team worked between the colossal stone pores, they uncovered the opening of a deep, perfectly rectangular shaft cut straight down into the living limestone bedrock. This was no natural fissure, it was a man-made entry point, a deliberate doorway leading into the earth. The shaft descended into a small, empty chamber, a kind of antechamber that felt like a starting point rather than a destination. This initial space then connected to a far deeper and more complex structure, a multi-level subterranean complex that later explorations would famously, if somewhat dramatically, label the Tomb of Osiris. While this name captures the imagination, it is the architecture that tells the real story. The complex features a central square pillar surrounded by a channel of water, with several smaller niches carved into the surrounding walls. It is an intricate ritual space, demonstrating a sophisticated understanding of underground construction and hydrological engineering. The critical point here is location. This elaborate structure was found directly in the shadow of the Sphinx, mere steps from its foundational body. Its discovery proved conclusively that the ancient builders were not just carving statues on the surface. They were actively and skillfully engineering spaces deep within the plateau itself. This shattered the long-held assumption that the ground beneath Giza was simply solid, inert rock. If they built this here, what might they have built closer to the heart of the monument, or even directly beneath its silent gaze? The Tomb of Osiris was not the hidden chamber of legend, but it was something perhaps just as important, a key. It turned the possibility of other voids from a speculative legend into a legitimate archaeological question, unlocking a new era of investigation focused not just on the sand, but on the secrets held within the stone. Science now had a powerful new voice in the conversation. The 1990s brought a seismic shift to the sands of Giza, not in the form of shovels but with sound waves. A collaborative mission involving researchers from Florida State University and Egyptian authorities led by the then Minister of Antiquities, Zahi Hawass, initiated a comprehensive survey of the plateau. Their tool was seismology, a technique that listens to the earth. By sending precise vibrations into the ground and meticulously recording the echoes that bounced back, they could create a sonogram of the bedrock, mapping its density and structure without ever breaking the surface. The results sent shockwaves through the archaeological community. The data revealed distinct geometric anomalies hidden deep beneath the monument. These were not random shapes, but what appeared to be large, rectangular voids, with one particularly prominent cavity located near the forepaws estimated to be comparable in size to a small bust. For a moment, legend and science seemed to align perfectly. Dr. Hawass at the time voiced tremendous optimism, suggesting these findings could rank among the most significant discoveries in Egypt's long history. The global media erupted with speculation, envisioning the imminent opening of a lost hall. Yet the story took an unexpected turn. Official follow-up explorations were curiously limited, and over time, the narrative surrounding these voids began to change. The same anomalies once described with excitement were later characterized as likely natural cavities, perhaps ancient fissures in the limestone. This pivotal chapter did not provide a clear answer, but it fundamentally altered the debate. It transformed the search from a pursuit based on texts and traditions into one grounded in tangible, if controversial, scientific data. The question was no longer merely what might be down there, but why such compelling signals from the depths were met with such a complex and shifting response, leaving the world to wonder what exactly the seismic whispers had truly heard. The seismic whispers were not the only challenge to the official timeline. To truly grasp what might be sealed beneath the stone, we must confront a question that reshapes the entire mystery. When was the Sphinx actually carved? Look closely at the walls of the enclosure that surrounds the monument, the deep trench from which its body was liberated. You will see not the smooth, wind-swept erosion expected in a desert, but something far more dramatic: deep, vertical channels and undulating hollows that scar the limestone. To a geologist, these patterns tell a specific story. In the 1990s, Dr. Robert Skock of Boston University presented a hypothesis that sent ripples through Egyptology. He argued this distinctive weathering was not caused by sand and wind, but by water, specifically thousands of years of heavy, persistent rainfall. This kind of climate last existed in Egypt at the end of the last ice age, a period stretching from roughly 10,000 to 5,000 years before the Common Era. If his reading of the stone is correct, the Sphinx could be millennia older than the reign of Pharaoh Khafre, to whom it is traditionally linked. This is not a minor adjustment. It is a revolutionary recalibration of history. It suggests the Sphinx may be a legacy of a forgotten epoch, a monument built by a culture that flourished long before the dynastic Egyptians we know. And this is where the theory connects powerfully to our search for hidden chambers. A civilization that ancient, one that witnessed the drastic climatic shifts at the dawn of our current geological age, would have possessed a profoundly different worldview. Their greatest creation would not have been a mere royal portrait, but something far more significant. What would such a people, perhaps facing the memory of a great cataclysm as their green lands dried into desert, choose to protect? The potential contents of any vault shift dramatically, from the grave goods of a king to a deliberate time capsule, a repository of knowledge meant to outlast not just a dynasty but an entire age. It transforms the possible chamber from a tomb into an ark, sealed within the bedrock by a culture intent on sending a message across the abyss of time, preserved perfectly by the very arid climate that followed their disappearance. The idea of a hall of records received its most detailed modern blueprint not from an archaeologist, but from a man who saw it in his sleep. Edgar Cayce, an American figure often called the Sleeping Prophet, conducted thousands of psychic readings in the early 20th century, and among his most famous were those concerning ancient Egypt. While in a deep trance state, Cayce described a vast subterranean archive, a hall of records, buried in a passageway running from the right paw of the Sphinx toward the Nile. Its contents were said to be nothing less than the complete history and advanced spiritual wisdom of a lost civilization, the legendary Atlantis, preserved for a future age of rediscovery. Cayce prophesied this hall would be found and opened before the end of the 20th century, an event that would fundamentally alter humanity's understanding of its own past and potential. Now, from a strictly academic standpoint, Cayce's visions are not considered historical evidence. They belong to the realm of metaphysical belief, and mainstream scholarship dismisses them entirely. Yet, to ignore their impact on the search itself would be to miss a crucial layer of the story. Cayce's detailed narratives, describing features like a three-legged stool, marking an entrance and chambers filled with crystalline tablets and artifacts of an unknown technology, provided a powerful and vivid template. They gave shape to the formless hope of what might be hidden, transforming an abstract legend into a specific, tangible goal that has directly inspired and funded numerous private expeditions and research initiatives over the decades. This theory represents the search's spiritual and prophetic dimension. It suggests that the ultimate secret of the Sphinx may not be a king's tomb or a store of gold, but a repository of knowledge so profound it could serve as a catalyst for a shift in human consciousness itself. Whether one views Cayce as a visionary or a mystic, his influence cemented the Hall of Records in the modern imagination, framing the quest not just as an archaeological dig, but as a journey toward a forgotten truth about who we are and where we came from. The seismic findings were not the only scientific whispers from the stone. Across the world, researchers at Japan's prestigious Waseda University were listening with a different kind of ear. In the late 1980s, they brought their own advanced technology to the Giza Plateau, a method called electromagnetic wave tomography. Think of it not as listening to echoes, but as taking an X-ray of the Earth, using waves to map the density of materials deep underground without disturbing a single grain of sand. Their published results were meticulous and clear, offering a powerful, independent confirmation. The data revealed a compelling void, a distinct empty space estimated to be about 2.5 to 3 meters beneath the rear haunches of the Sphinx. This was a new location, separate from the areas near the pores, suggesting the possibility of multiple hidden features, but their findings went even further. The scans also hinted at the presence of what appeared to be tunnels near the monument's south wall, and most intriguingly, their analysis suggested metallic objects might be present within these spaces. This last detail is crucial, for while limestone can contain natural metallic veins, the suggestion of shaped or concentrated metal deep within a man-made cavity changes everything. It transforms an empty room into a potential storage chamber, a place where artifacts, tools, or ceremonial items could have been placed. The work of the Waseda team did more than just add another data point. It fundamentally deepened the architectural mystery. Their evidence painted a picture not of a single, isolated chamber, but of a possible network, a subterranean layout integrated with the monument's very foundation. This independent, peer-reviewed science from a world-class institution forced a serious question. If these were all just natural cracks in the rock, why did they align so suggestively with the statue's form, and why would they contain such curious signatures? The Sphinx was beginning to look less like a solitary sentinel and more like the capstone of a hidden, complex structure, its true purpose waiting silently in the dark below. The bedrock itself holds the core of this debate. While our tools can map the emptiness within the stone, they cannot yet tell us the story of its creation. Is the void a deliberate chamber, or is it a cathedral carved by time alone? To understand this, we must listen to the geologists who remind us that the Giza Plateau is not a solid, unyielding block. It is a layered cake of sedimentary limestone, a stone born from ancient seabeds, and like all limestone, it has a secret relationship with water. Over thousands, even millions of years, slightly acidic rainwater can seep down through fissures, slowly dissolving the rock and creating intricate networks of cavities, sinkholes, and tunnels. These are called karstic formations, and they are a perfectly natural, global phenomenon. For many scientists, this is the most logical explanation for the anomalies detected beneath the Sphinx. They argue that our sophisticated scans are simply revealing the complex, Swiss cheese-like geology that has always been there, a labyrinth formed by nature long before the first stone of the pyramid was set. Yet the proponents of hidden chambers counter with a compelling architectural detail. Natural dissolution rarely produces sharp, 90-degree corners. The chaotic work of water tends to create rounded, irregular, organic shapes. Some of the seismic and electromagnetic data, however, suggests voids with distinctly rectangular profiles. In the world of subterranean exploration, right angles are the signature of human hands. Furthermore, the placement of these particular anomalies feels strategically significant, clustered near the forepaws or aligned with the monument's axis, rather than scattered randomly across the plateau. Could it be that the ancient builders, masters of working with their environment, discovered these natural cavities and then modified them, squaring off the walls and integrating them into a grand design? The coincidence of a perfectly shaped void sitting directly beneath the heart of one of humanity's most intentional monuments seems, to many, far too great to ignore. We are left, then, in a fascinating space of uncertainty, a frontier where hard science meets historical mystery. The data from our ground-penetrating radars and seismic listeners is not a clear photograph. It is more like a distant echo, open to interpretation. One researcher's ancient storage chamber is another's water-worn fissure. This ambiguity is not a failure of science, but a reflection of its limits when probing the deep past without breaking the seal. It means the question of what lies beneath the Sphinx cannot be settled by scans alone. The debate exists precisely in this gray area, where every reading can be woven into multiple narratives. It is a reminder that some doors, especially those buried for millennia, demand a physical key. Until a carefully conducted excavation can peer into that darkness, the limestone will keep its secret, leaving us to wonder if the echoes we hear are the whispers of an ancient architect or simply the slow, patient breath of the earth itself. The search was about to move from scientific journals directly into the world's living rooms. In 1996, the mystery of the Sphinx received the full Hollywood treatment in a prime-time television special broadcast live by Fox. This was no dry documentary. It was an event framed as a potential live discovery with dramatic music, celebrity narration, and millions of viewers watching in real time. The centerpiece of the broadcast was a high-stakes operation led by researcher Dr. Joseph Score, conducted with the official permission and supervision of Zahi Hawass. Their target was a known passage near the rear of the monument. With the cameras transmitting every moment, a drill was carefully lowered and began to bore a small hole through the ancient limestone floor. Then something happened that sent a jolt through the control room. The drill bit suddenly lurched forward, dropping into open space. It was the physical sensation every explorer dreams of, a tangible hint of a void below. The team quickly switched tools, inserting a slender fiber optic camera into the newly made borehole, its tiny lens snaking down to see what lay beneath. What flickered onto television screens across America were grainy, shadowy images, difficult to decipher in the low light. Some viewers and researchers saw the outline of what appeared to be a smooth, man-made surface, perhaps even a door with what looked like metal fittings. The broadcast hosts voiced the electrifying possibility that this could be the entrance to a hidden chamber. Yet, almost as swiftly as the excitement had built, the official narrative was clarified. Authorities stated the camera had merely revealed a small, natural cavity in the limestone, empty and of no archaeological significance. The dramatic drop of the drill bit was attributed to a common geological feature, not a crafted room. This event became a defining moment in the modern saga of the Sphinx, not for what it found, but for what it revealed about the search itself. It perfectly captured the collision between rigorous archaeology and the powerful engine of media spectacle. The live format created immense pressure for a breakthrough, turning a careful investigation into a televised drama where ambiguity could be shaped into narrative. For the public, the tantalizing, unclear images were far more compelling than the official explanation. The special did not solve the mystery, it amplified it, demonstrating how the pursuit of historical truth can become entangled with the control of a story, leaving everyone to wonder what, in that tense control room, had truly been seen through the lens in the dark. Perhaps the map to these hidden spaces is not carved in stone, but written in the stars above. A revolutionary idea emerged in the 1990s that reframed the entire Giza Plateau not as a collection of separate tombs, but as a single, unified celestial diagram. This is the Orion correlation theory proposed by researcher Robert Bovell. He observed that the three Great Pyramids align with a stunning precision to the three stars of Orion's belt, but not as they appear in our sky today. To achieve a perfect match, The layout corresponds to the position of those stars as they would have been observed around 10,500 years before the Common Era, an epoch that eerily echoes the geological age suggested for the Sphinx itself. This was not a random alignment, Bovell argued, but a deliberate act of architectural timekeeping, a way to stamp a specific date onto the landscape for eternity. The theory expands further. If the pyramids are Orion, then what is the Sphinx? Some researchers point to the constellation Leo, the lion, which would have risen on the eastern horizon directly opposite Orion's setting in that ancient sky. In this grand celestial blueprint, the Sphinx is not merely a guardian of the ground, but a representation of the celestial lion watching over the starry belt of the dead. This perspective transforms the plateau into a vast, three-dimensional astronomical clock, frozen at a moment of profound cosmic significance. So, if the entire complex is a mirror of the heavens, what does that imply for the chambers we suspect lie beneath? Their locations may not be arbitrary. They could be positioned according to other important stars in that ancient celestial map, perhaps Sirius, the brightest star, or the pole star of that forgotten age. The potential contents of such spaces shift dramatically in this context. They would not be a pharaoh's personal wealth, but something far more purposeful, artifacts or records placed as part of a cosmic ritual, intended to be activated or discovered at a specific preordained time, perhaps when the stars realign to their ancient pattern. This idea elevates the search from an archaeological excavation to the decoding of a message. The hidden chambers, if they exist, become more than rooms. They are critical components in a mechanism, the hidden gears of an astronomical clock set ticking millennia ago. The builders, in this view, were not just engineers and artists, but master astronomers who wove time, stone, and sky into a single monument, leaving a puzzle that can only be fully understood by a future civilization that has learned to read the language of the stars as fluently as they did. This theory gives us our first concrete vision of what might be waiting in the dark. If the Sphinx truly guards a library, its contents would rewrite the first chapter of human history. We are not talking about treasure in the traditional sense, but a collection of knowledge so profound its value is beyond any material measure. Picture a civilization, one that flourished during a wetter, greener age in North Africa, possessing a deep understanding of the stars, the earth, and their own place in the cosmos. As their world began to change, as the climate shifted and the desert sands began to claim their lands, they faced a monumental decision. How do you ensure your legacy, your accumulated wisdom, does not simply vanish with you? Their answer was to build a vault for time itself. They would not carve their story on temple walls exposed to the elements, but would encode it onto the most durable mediums they could conceive. Historians who explore this idea suggest these could be sheets of a platinum group metal, nearly impervious to corrosion, or crystalline tablets that could store information in ways we are only beginning to understand today. They might have developed a form of parchment treated with unknown preservatives, designed to survive for epochs. The library would be a deliberate time capsule, sealed not for a king, but for the future of humanity. What would such a collection contain? The possibilities are breathtaking. It could hold precise star charts from 12,000 years ago, mapping the heavens as they appeared before the last great ice receded. There might be geological surveys showing coastlines and islands now submerged beneath the rising seas, giving names to lands we only know from myth. Technical schematics could outline principles of energy, architecture, or agriculture lost to our own age. Most poignant of all, there could be first-hand historical accounts, not legends but records, of the great climatic upheavals they witnessed, the challenges they faced, and the lessons they learned. This theory transforms the chamber from a hidden room into a sacred duty. The builders were not hiding wealth, they were performing an act of profound hope, entrusting the essence of their culture to the guardianship of stone and time, believing that a future generation, perhaps one facing its own crossroads, would be wise enough to find it and needful enough to understand its message. The value of such a discovery would not lie in gold, but in memory, offering us a direct conversation with our deepest past and perhaps a guide for our shared future. Radar waves now join the chorus of whispers from the stone. The latest chapter in this technological detective story involves two sophisticated tools that see through the earth without ever touching a shovel. Ground-penetrating radar, often called GPR, works like a high-tech echolocator. It sends pulses of high-frequency radio waves down into the ground and listens intently for the reflections that bounce back. Every change in the material below, from a layer of compacted clay to an open space, creates a distinct signature on the returning signal. Working in concert, resistivity surveys take a different approach, measuring how easily electrical current flows through the soil and rock. A void filled with air will resist the current differently than solid limestone, and the presence of ancient moisture or different materials paints a vivid, if subtle, electrical map of the hidden landscape. These are not speculative instruments, they are the standard tools of modern archaeology and geology, used to locate buried foundations, pipes, and forgotten structures around the world. When carefully applied to the sands around the Sphinx, even in limited, targeted studies, the results have been consistent with a provocative pattern. The radar profiles and electrical maps continue to show those same intriguing anomalies, the shadows and voids that earlier seismic work first hinted at decades ago. The real advancement with modern GPR is in the clarity of the picture. As the technology's resolution improves, researchers can now analyze the shape of these hidden features with greater precision. The critical question becomes, does the anomaly on the screen show the rounded, flowing contours of a water-worn fissure, or does it reveal the sharp, deliberate geometry of human construction? Right angles in nature are exceptionally rare, so their appearance in the data is a beacon pointing toward intention. Yet for all their power, these tools are not magic eyes. They have inherent limitations, especially in a place as complex as Giza. The depth they can effectively penetrate is finite, and the signals can become confused by the layered, jumbled geology of the plateau, reflections bouncing between natural cracks and man-made blocks in a confusing chorus. What these surveys provide, then, are not answers but the most detailed invitations yet. They draw a map of potential, highlighting specific areas where the Earth tells a different story. They transform the question from, is there something down there, to, it is very likely there is something right here, but a shadow on a radar screen, no matter how compelling, remains a phantom. It is a prelude, a scientific hypothesis written in radio waves and electrical currents. The final, definitive chapter in this story, the act of turning these electronic whispers into historical fact, requires a physical key. It demands a careful, meticulous excavation, a direct look into the darkness, and that step, from non-invasive scanning to breaking the ancient seal, is where the search encounters its most formidable walls, not of stone, but of preservation, politics, and profound respect for a legacy that belongs to all of humanity. But a library of records is not the only possibility. Another theory suggests the chambers could contain something even more tangible, the physical tools of a forgotten science. Imagine if the vault beneath the Sphinx held not just knowledge, but the very artifacts that applied it. This idea is fueled by small, persistent mysteries from the ancient world that hint at unexplained sophistication. Consider the so-called Baghdad battery, a clay pot from 2,000 years ago containing a copper cylinder and an iron rod, capable of producing a small electrical charge if filled with an acidic liquid. Was it a toy, a religious object, or a primitive battery? Or look at the mind-bending precision of stonework at sites like Puma Punku or within the Great Pyramid itself, where blocks are cut and fitted with a tolerance modern masons would struggle to achieve without power tools. These are outliers, pieces that do not quite fit the standard timeline. If a culture with such capabilities existed in deep antiquity, what might they have considered important enough to preserve in their most secure vault? The contents shift from written wisdom to applied engineering. Speculation centers on objects that harness natural forces in ways we are only beginning to rediscover. Perhaps there are devices based on crystalline structures designed to focus or store energy from the earth or atmosphere. There could be ingots of advanced metallurgical alloys, metals with properties we have not yet synthesized, their molecular structure telling a story of a chemistry far ahead of its time. Given the Sphinx's potential astronomical alignments, the chamber might house instruments of incredible accuracy, star charts not carved on stone but built into three-dimensional models that track planetary movements across millennia. Some researchers point to the monument's specific location, suggesting it sits upon a powerful confluence of geological energy or a so-called ley line. If true, any artifacts might be related to principles of harmonic resonance or geomancy, tools designed to interact with the planet's own subtle frequencies. The purpose of such a collection would be profound. This would not be a stash of functional tools for daily use, nor grave goods for a king's journey. It would be a curated legacy, a seed vault for technology itself. A civilization facing its own decline might have chosen to encapsulate the core principles of their greatest achievements, burying them in a stable, protected environment as a gift for a future age. The discovery of even one such object would send shockwaves through our understanding of history. It would challenge the linear narrative of human progress, suggesting instead a cyclical pattern where knowledge rises, is lost in great upheavals, and must be painfully rediscovered. It would force us to ask not just who built the Sphinx, but what they were truly capable of, and what fragment of that grand understanding might still be waiting, silent and intact, in the dark beneath the sand. Yet with all these tantalizing clues, the Sphinx remains sealed. The most persistent question hanging over this mystery is not what lies beneath, but why no one has simply gone to look. If the evidence is so compelling, why has there never been a major, definitive excavation aimed directly at these hidden chambers? The answer is not a simple lack of will, but a complex web of responsibility, preservation, and profound cultural stakes. At its heart, the Sphinx is an incredibly fragile monument. Thousands of years of erosion have weakened the limestone body, and its structural integrity is a constant concern for conservators. An invasive, large-scale dig, especially near its foundation, is not like an archaeological site in an open field. One wrong move, one misjudgment of the load-bearing rock could trigger a catastrophic collapse. This is not a risk any responsible authority is willing to take with an UNESCO World Heritage Site that belongs to all humanity. The approach, therefore, is one of extreme caution, prioritizing the monument's survival over the satisfaction of our curiosity. Beyond the physical preservation lies a deep layer of political and cultural sensitivity. Egypt's ancient heritage is a cornerstone of its national identity and a source of immense pride. The idea of a foreign-led expedition making a potentially world-altering discovery on Egyptian soil is a scenario fraught with complexity. It touches on issues of ownership, narrative control, and legacy. Who gets to tell the story of a find that could rewrite history? Furthermore, any discovery that fundamentally challenges the established timeline of Egyptian civilization, such as evidence of a much older builder, would have ripple effects far beyond academia. It could intersect with cultural and even religious understandings, both within Egypt and across the global community that looks to this ancient culture for inspiration. The authorities tasked with stewardship must balance genuine scientific curiosity with these immense, real-world considerations. This creates a fascinating, if frustrating, impasse. The current reality is one of suspended revelation. Our most advanced technology can whisper and hint, drawing maps of potential in the dark, but it cannot cross the final threshold. It cannot declare victory. In many ways, the authorities are choosing to protect the mystery itself, judging that the risks of a destabilizing truth or physical damage outweigh the potential rewards of certainty. For now, the chambers, if they exist, remain in a state of perfect preservation, guarded not by a curse, but by a calculated and deeply respectful caution. The silence beneath the stone is maintained by a consensus that some questions are so monumental, the answers must be approached with not just tools, but with wisdom. The spiritual heart of ancient Egypt offers another, equally profound possibility for what lies in the dark. Stepping away from lost civilizations and into the well-documented world of pharaonic belief, the Sphinx itself provides the key. For much of its known history, the monument was not called the Sphinx by the Egyptians. They knew it as Harmakhis, meaning Horus in the horizon. This was not just a nickname, it was a divine identity. Horus, the falcon-headed sky god, was the living embodiment of kingship, and to see him in this lion-bodied guardian transformed the statue into a permanent, earthly manifestation of a celestial power. If the Sphinx is Harmakhis, then any chamber beneath it takes on a sacred function unlike any royal tomb. It could be the ultimate Serdab, a sealed statue chamber of the kind found in pyramids and temples. These rooms were not for visitors, they were designed to house a physical vessel for a deity's spirit, a place of eternal, undisturbed presence. The contents of such a space would be purely ritual, meant for the eyes of the gods alone. We might find cult statues of Harmakhis or associated deities, carved from precious woods or rare stones, perhaps seated upon ceremonial thrones. The walls could be lined with inscribed tablets containing the most complete versions of the pyramid texts or the later coffin texts, the spells and incantations meant to guide and protect a soul through the perilous journey of the afterlife. This would be a theological library, a repository of the sacred knowledge that powered the Egyptian understanding of creation, death, and rebirth. The most intriguing dimension of this theory connects to the god Osiris, the lord of the underworld and the first king of a mythic golden age. The so-called tomb of Osiris discovered near the Sphinx shows the deep association of this site with that god of resurrection. Could a hidden chamber be a symbolic burial place, not for a human pharaoh, but for the divine essence of Osiris himself? In this context, any artifacts would be instruments of cosmic ritual. There might be ceremonial barks, miniature solar boats meant for the god's nightly journey through the Duat, the underworld. We could find sacred oils untouched for millennia, still in their alabaster jars, or sets of ritual tools fashioned from gold and obsidian. The purpose of this collection would be eternal maintenance, to magically sustain the cycle of death and rebirth that guaranteed not just a king's afterlife, but the very order of the cosmos. This theory offers a treasure, but one of a different kind. It would not rewrite our technological timeline, but it would revolutionize our comprehension of Egyptian spirituality. To find such a chamber would be to open a direct line into the ritual mind of the ancients, to see the tools of their faith laid out exactly as the priests intended, preserving a moment of perfect devotion for eternity. It would confirm that the greatest secret of the Sphinx was not a record of a lost world, but a perfectly preserved snapshot of a living, breathing belief system, a spiritual engine room hidden in the bedrock to keep the universe turning. Sound itself may become the key that finally unlocks the map. As radar and seismic waves have painted their shadowy pictures, a new frontier of listening is emerging, one that uses the ancient power of resonance. The principle feels almost magical in its simplicity, yet it is grounded in solid physics. Every space, from a grand cathedral to a small clay pot, has a natural resonant frequency, a specific pitch at which the air within it vibrates most powerfully. Strike a tuning fork outside an empty jar, and you will hear a faint hum from within as the air inside responds. Now, scale that idea up dramatically. Researchers are exploring how controlled sound waves, projected into the ground at carefully selected frequencies, can interact with hidden cavities. Sophisticated arrays of sensors, like sensitive electronic ears placed across the Sphinx enclosure, would listen not for a simple echo, but for the complex harmonic signature these subterranean spaces create. Each void would sing back a unique chord, a sonic fingerprint that advanced software could then translate into a three-dimensional model, revealing its estimated size, shape, and depth with a potential precision other methods struggle to achieve. This is acoustic tomography, a non-destructive sonar for solid ground. Its promise has already been hinted at in other ancient spaces. Preliminary experiments within the Great Pyramid's King's Chamber have recorded sustained, low-frequency resonances that some scientists believe could be influenced by still undiscovered passages or chambers around it. The very stone of Giza seems to hold a vibration, a memory in the rock waiting to be heard. Applying this technique directly to the Sphinx and its surrounding trench would be a logical and revolutionary next step. Imagine a day when researchers do not drill or dig, but instead fill the air with a deep, controlled tone, while a grid of listening devices captures the monument's whispered reply from below. The data produced would be profoundly different from a blurry radar anomaly. If a detected void produces a clean, harmonic, and sustained resonance, it strongly suggests walls that are parallel, surfaces that are smooth, and a geometry that is intentional. A natural, water-worn fissure tends to create a chaotic, dissonant sonic signature. A constructed chamber, however, would ring with a clearer, more purposeful tone. A positive result would add a completely new layer of evidence to the investigative dossier, one written not in radio waves or electrical currents, but in the pure language of vibration. It would move the search from seeing shadows to hearing a shape, bringing us one step closer to a chorus of proof from the silent dark. Perhaps the greatest secret is not an object, but the very earth itself. We have been searching for libraries and artifacts, but the ancient Egyptians held a reverence for something more fundamental than any human creation, the primordial waters of none. In their cosmology, none was the dark, formless ocean that existed before creation, the source of all life and the destination of the sun god's nightly journey. The Nile was its earthly echo, a sacred artery. What if the hidden chamber is a deliberate homage to this belief, not a room filled with things, but a carefully preserved sample of the world as it was? This theory suggests the space is the artifact, a geological or hydrological archive sealed for eternity. Imagine the builders identifying a deep, natural cavity that tapped into an ancient aquifer or contained perfectly layered sediments. Instead of clearing it out, they might have chosen to encapsulate it, sealing it with a stone door to protect its contents from the changing world above. Within that silent darkness, the chamber would hold a frozen moment in deep time. Pristine layers of silt and sand would tell the story of the Sahara's dramatic transformation from a lush, green savanna teeming with life into the vast desert we know today. Trapped air bubbles in the water or within mineral deposits could preserve samples of the ancient atmosphere, a breath from a different age. For modern science, such a find would be beyond priceless. It would offer an uncontaminated climatic record, a direct line to understanding the patterns and pace of past environmental change on a scale no ice core or sediment sample from elsewhere could match. The builders may not have understood climatology as we do, but they were profound observers of nature. They witnessed their world drying around them over generations. Preserving a piece of that vanishing wetter world, a sacred wellspring linking to the mythical nun, would have been an act of both spiritual devotion and profound practical memory. It transforms the chamber from a storage closet into a temple, a sanctuary for the essence of life itself. The treasure is not gold, but data, a message in stone and water and air, reminding us that the greatest histories are not always written by human hands, but are recorded in the slow, patient layers of the earth. This quest for what lies beneath may ultimately be a mirror held up to ourselves. Across countless traditions, the Sphinx is more than a statue. It is a symbol, a riddle carved in stone. Its very form, a human head upon a lion's body, speaks of a fundamental duality, the marriage of intellect with instinct, consciousness with the raw power of nature. In this light, the idea of a hidden chamber transforms. It becomes less a physical room and more a profound metaphor for the unconscious mind, the vast repository of hidden knowledge and forgotten memory that resides within each of us and within our collective human story. The search for the chamber, then, is not just an archaeological expedition, it is an inward journey. The potential contents shift from crystalline tablets or golden artifacts to something more intangible, yet infinitely more personal. They become the truths we are each compelled to discover, the unity of science and spirit that modern life often separates, the quiet memory of our shared origins that hums beneath the noise of daily existence, and the latent keys to our own untapped potential. This philosophical interpretation does not dismiss the thrilling possibility of literal, physical voids in the bedrock. Instead, it enriches the entire pursuit, adding a layer of meaning that transcends the outcome of any single dig. It suggests that the Sphinx's most enduring power may not be in what it conceals, but in what it reveals about us as seekers. For centuries, it has forced the brightest minds to question, to innovate new ways of seeing, and to look beneath the surface of accepted history. It challenges our assumptions about linear progress, whispering of cycles and forgotten epochs. Even if a drill never breaks the seal on a physical chamber, the monument has already succeeded in its most ancient function, that of a guardian and a catalyst. It guards a mystery that propels us forward, and it catalyzes a relentless human drive to understand our place in the deep river of time. The true treasure may be the eternal quest itself, a journey that reshapes not only our view of the past but also our vision of what is possible, compelling every generation to look into the dark, both in the sands of Egypt and within the uncharted depths of our own wonder. The search for what lies beneath is no longer confined to the sands. Our perspective now shifts from the shadow of the monument to the silent void of space itself, where satellites orbit with a unique kind of sight. Synthetic aperture radar, often called SAR, is a revolutionary technology that allows these orbital platforms to see through the dry desert surface. Unlike optical cameras that only capture reflected sunlight, radar satellites emit their own microwave pulses and analyze the signals that bounce back. Because these wavelengths can penetrate dry, sandy soil and other non-metallic surface materials to a depth of several meters, they act like a gentle X-ray for vast landscapes. This has proven invaluable across Egypt, where SAR has successfully mapped the ghostly outlines of entire lost cities swallowed by time and traced the ancient, dried-up channels of rivers that once fed civilizations. For the Giza Plateau, this offers a completely different scale of investigation. While the radar cannot reach the depths required to image a chamber directly beneath the Sphinx, its power lies in revealing the larger picture. Advanced analysis of SAR data could detect subtle linear features hidden just below the sand, features invisible to the human eye on the ground. Imagine identifying a pattern of subsurface drainage channels, or the faint, straight lines of a filled in processional way, or even the openings of shafts long since covered over. These would not be the chambers themselves, but the pathways leading to them, the arteries of a hidden system. This bird's eye view allows us to ask a bigger question. If there is a chamber network, how does it fit into the sacred geography of the entire plateau? The SAR perspective could reveal if the Sphinx is connected by subterranean lines to the pyramids or to the ancient waterfront of the Nile, now buried under modern Cairo. It could show a hidden terrestrial design mirroring the celestial one above, a grand, integrated plan where the monuments we see are only the surface expressions of a much deeper, intentional layout carved into the very skin of the Earth. This macro-scale approach reminds us that the secret, if it exists, may not be a single locked door, but a key woven into the landscape itself, waiting to be seen from the one vantage point that can perceive the whole. The most sacred treasure might be the absence of one. Among the many theories of what could be hidden, there exists a profoundly counterintuitive possibility that a chamber exists and is deliberately, completely empty. This idea resonates with some of humanity's oldest spiritual traditions, where the highest form of the sacred is not an object but a space. In the mystical practices of many ancient cultures, the void was not a symbol of lack but of infinite potential. It represented the silent moment before creation, the dark womb from which all life emerges, the blank canvas upon which the universe paints itself. An intentionally empty room beneath the Sphinx could be the ultimate expression of this philosophy, an architectural addendum, a holy of holies designed not to house a thing but to facilitate an experience. Imagine an initiate having passed through guarded passages, finally entering this sealed space. They would be surrounded by nothing but perfect stillness and darkness, a sensory deprivation chamber carved from the living earth. In that profound emptiness, stripped of all external distraction, they would confront the core of their own being. Rituals of symbolic death and rebirth, central to many mystery schools, required just such an environment, a place where the old self could be released into the void to make way for a new, enlightened consciousness. The power of the chamber would lie entirely in its vacancy, a physical manifestation of a concept so advanced it transcends material value. For us, as modern seekers, the discovery of an empty room would be a moment of stunning paradox. On one hand, it would seem anticlimactic, a treasure chest with no jewels, a library with no scrolls. Yet, on a deeper level, it would be a revelation of staggering sophistication. It would confirm that the builder's genius was not only in engineering and astronomy, but in the realm of symbolic thought and spiritual psychology. Such a find would directly challenge our modern, often materialistic, expectations of what constitutes a worthwhile discovery. It would force a fundamental shift in the search's very meaning, redirecting our focus from what might be stored to the profound significance of the act of storing nothing. The message of the empty chamber would be clear: the greatest truths are not found in objects, but in the spaces we create to understand ourselves. The real vault, in this light, is not beneath the stone, but within the mind of anyone who stands before the mystery and learns to value the question as much as the answer. The dusty archives of past surveys now hold a potential key, locked within decades of raw data. Seismic readings, ground-penetrating radar profiles, and electrical resistivity maps from countless expeditions over the years sit in digital storage, a vast library of echoes from the stone. For the human eye and brain, synthesizing these disparate datasets is an immense challenge, like trying to assemble a single clear picture from 100 fragmented, blurry photographs taken in different light. This is where a new kind of explorer enters the story, one that thinks in patterns and probabilities. Modern artificial intelligence and machine learning algorithms are revolutionizing our ability to listen to the past with new ears. These systems can be trained to reanalyze this old data with a power and patience no human team could ever match. An advanced AI does not just look at one scan at a time. It can process all the surveys together, layering the seismic whispers over the radar shadows over the electrical maps. Its goal is to find the correlations, the subtle, consistent anomalies that appear across multiple, independent datasets. Where a human might dismiss a faint blip as random noise, the algorithm can check it against 1,000 other data points, asking if that same faint signature appears elsewhere in a meaningful pattern. The promise is a unified, high-probability, three-dimensional model of the subsurface, a digital twin of the hidden landscape beneath the Sphinx. Think of it as a powerful filter. The eye can be instructed to recognize the chaotic, organic signatures of natural limestone fissures and gradually subtract that geological noise from the overall picture. What remains are the outliers, the anomalies with sharp edges, right angles, and alignments that defy natural explanation. These become the highlights on the new map, the spots where the probability of human intervention spikes. This is digital archaeology at its most powerful, a zero-risk, low-cost method to revive the coldest of cases. It requires no new permits, no disturbance to the monument, only immense computational power and clever programming. The outcome could be transformative if independent AI models, trained on different principles and by different teams around the world, all consistently converge on the same specific coordinates, all pointing to the same small area and declaring with high confidence that something artificial lies here. It changes the entire conversation. Such a consensus would create an irresistible scientific mandate. It would shift the burden of proof, making inaction the riskier choice. Authorities could then plan a surgical, minimally invasive investigation, perhaps using a tiny borehole and a microcamera, aimed with precision at the highest probability target. This technological leap offers a potential path through the long-standing logjam, using the language of undeniable data to build the case for one careful, definitive look into the dark. The silent stone of Giza has long since escaped the desert to live in our collective imagination. This mystery of hidden chambers has resonated far beyond academic journals, becoming a powerful fixture in literature, film, and modern myth. In the eerie cosmic horror of H.P. Lovecraft, ancient, slumbering beings are often linked to forgotten cyclopean cities, a narrative thread that subtly weaves the Sphinx antiquity into tales of prehuman worlds. Cinema has embraced this iconography with spectacular vision. Films like The Fifth Element imagine a pivotal cosmic event occurring within a temple guarded by a Sphinx-like structure, while Stargate literally uses the monument as a portal to other worlds, framing it as a piece of advanced technology rather than mere sculpture. These stories are not about archaeology, they are about revelation. The hidden chamber becomes the ultimate narrative device, a locked box that, when opened, changes everything the protagonist knows about reality. This cultural echo chamber does more than entertain. It actively fuels public fascination, creating a vibrant, self-sustaining loop where creative fiction borrows from fringe theory, and fringe theory, in turn, borrows the compelling aesthetics of fiction. The line between a thrilling movie plot and a purported historical truth becomes wonderfully, and sometimes problematically, blurred. This cultural current flows directly into the powerful realm of alternative history and conspiracy narrative. Here, the chambers beneath the Sphinx are rarely just rooms. They are linchpins in vast, hidden chronologies. They are said to contain proof of lost civilizations like Atlantis or Lemuria, evidence so destabilizing it is actively suppressed by mainstream institutions or secret societies holding the keys to forbidden knowledge. In these narratives, the discovery of the chamber is often tied to prophecies of global awakening or societal transformation, a scheduled revelation that will topple old paradigms and birth a new age. Understanding this phenomenon is crucial, for it explains the intense, passionate energy that surrounds the search, and equally, the deep-seated skepticism from established academia. The Sphinx, in this light, becomes far more than an archaeological site. It functions as a vast, blank screen, a cultural Rorschach test. Onto its weathered surface, we project our deepest hopes for a forgotten golden age, our fears of controlled histories, and our yearning for a single, earth-shattering truth that makes sense of our complex world. The monument's enduring power lies in this dual role, as both a relic of stone and a vessel for story. forever inviting us to look beneath the surface of both the earth and the tales we tell ourselves. The moment a drill bit or a camera finally enters that hidden space, if it exists, will be a pivot point for history. But such a moment carries immense responsibility, for the act of discovery can sometimes be as destructive as the passage of millennia. So if the monumental decision to proceed is ever made, how should it unfold? The answer lies not in the tools of an adventurer, but in the meticulous, reverent protocol of a surgeon. This would be an ethical excavation, a framework designed to protect the secret even as it is revealed. It begins with a consortium, an international team where the world's leading archaeologists sit beside structural engineers, geologists specializing in limestone preservation, and masters of environmental control. This is not a single nation's project, but a shared human endeavor, pooling the greatest expertise to safeguard a legacy that belongs to everyone. The physical process would mirror this caution. Before any thought of entry, the most advanced three-dimensional mapping technologies available would create a hyper-detailed digital twin of the target area, understanding every stress point and geological layer. Only then, if entry is deemed safe, would the most delicate tools be employed. Imagine not a tunnel, but a hair-thin borehole drilled with microscopic precision. Through it would pass an endoscopic borescope, a fiber optic camera no wider than a pencil lead, the same tool used in life-saving medical procedures. This would be our first eye into the darkness, a silent, non-invasive observer that could map the interior, analyze the air, and confirm the chamber's stability without a single human step disturbing the ancient dust. Preservation would dictate every action. If a larger entry became necessary, it would be engineered like a vault door, with immediate environmental seals to lock out the modern atmosphere. The humidity, temperature, and light levels inside would be meticulously controlled and replicated, preventing the very air we breathe from triggering the decay of materials that have survived for ages in perfect stasis. And crucially, this entire process would unfold in the full light of global transparency. Every data point, every image from the borescope would be live-streamed and archived in open-access databases. There would be no room for speculation about what was or was not seen, no single gatekeeper of the narrative. The world would witness the discovery together in real time, with expert commentary translating each step. This transparency is the ultimate guard against sensationalism, ensuring the primary goal remains unwavering, the preservation of knowledge and the object itself, not the drama of the reveal. This hypothetical framework is more than a technical manual, it is a philosophical stance. It asserts that the wisdom required to uncover such a chamber must be equal to the wisdom we hope to find within it. The greatest triumph would not be finding a room full of artifacts, but finding them intact, studied with care, and understood in context, ensuring that our reach into the past does not become the very force that erases it. Perhaps the most compelling explanation is not a single truth, but a collection of them, layered like the limestone of the plateau itself. After exploring such diverse possibilities, a unifying theory emerges, one that sees the potential chambers not as a container for one thing, but as a vessel for many, a multi-layered legacy built across epochs. This view elegantly accommodates the conflicting evidence, weaving the geological anomalies, the ancient texts, and the spiritual significance into a single, coherent tapestry. It suggests the Sphinx guards not a singular secret, but a stratified history, a sacred site continuously recognized and enhanced across unimaginable stretches of time. The foundation of this idea lies in the bedrock and the radical possibility of the Sphinx's great age. If the monument's origins do indeed reach back into a pre-pharaonic epoch, then the deepest, most fundamental layer of any hidden complex could be a legacy from that forgotten world. This would be the primal archive, a time capsule sealed by a culture witnessing the end of their age, intended purely for the far future. Its contents, as we have speculated, would be of an entirely different character, perhaps crystalline data stores or artifacts of a science we no longer recognize. Then, millennia later, the dynastic Egyptians arrive. They encounter this colossal, weathered guardian emerging from the sands, a monument of unimaginable antiquity already imbued with power. Their genius was not to destroy it, but to adopt it, to integrate it into their own cosmic vision. Recognizing the site's inherent sacredness, they would have sought to connect with it. They might have discovered those ancient sealed passages and in reverence chosen not to violate them but to build upon them. This is where the Osirian layer is added. They could have constructed their own ritual chambers adjacent to or above the older voids, filling them with the golden statues, ritual texts, and ceremonial barks of their own pharaonic faith, dedicating them to Harmakhis and the cycle of resurrection. In this synthesis, the hidden structure becomes a historical palimpsest, a parchment written upon more than once. Each era sees the power in the site and contributes its own chapter to the hidden narrative. The contents, therefore, would be a breathtaking stratified mixture. In the deepest dark, you might find the enigmatic artifacts of a lost world. Resting above them, in chambers from the Old Kingdom, could be the gilded accoutrements of a pharaoh's divine journey. The walls might bear inscriptions in hieroglyphs telling one story, while beneath the floor, in a language undeciphered, another story entirely waits. This theory resolves so many puzzles. It explains why seismic data shows voids at different depths and of different shapes. It makes sense of why the Sphinx was revered as a god by the New Kingdom pharaohs long after its traditional builder, Khafre, was gone, because they were honoring something they knew was far older and more potent than a royal statue. It even bridges the gap between the metaphysical hall of records and the practical ritual Serdab, for both concepts are about preservation, just for different purposes and from different times. Ultimately, this view presents the Sphinx not as a monument to a single king, but as a perennial focal point of human aspiration. It transforms from a static sculpture into a living participant in history, a silent witness to which successive civilizations brought their greatest truths for safekeeping. The ultimate secret, then, may be the continuum of the search for meaning itself, with each layer representing a different answer to the same eternal questions, all buried together in the hope that one day someone would be wise enough to understand the collective message. From the echoes of seismic surveys to the silent testimony of weathered stone, this journey through possibility reminds us that some mysteries are defined not by their answers, but by the profound questions they keep alive. The Sphinx, in its eternal repose, has become far more than an ancient statue. It is a mirror reflecting our own insatiable curiosity. Each theory, from the scientific to the spiritual, offers a different lens through which to view our past, challenging the neat timelines we have constructed and hinting at depths of human history we are only beginning to fathom. Whether those chambers hold a library of a lost world, the sacred tools of a forgotten faith, or simply the empty, echoing dark, their potential existence reshapes the landscape of our imagination. It compels us to look beyond the surface of accepted history and consider the whispers of a much longer, more complex human story. The search itself, with all its false starts and tantalizing hints, stands as a testament to a fundamental human drive, the need to reach back through time and connect with those who came before, to find a thread of continuity in the vast tapestry of ages. So while the physical seal remains unbroken, the intellectual and spiritual excavation has already unearthed a wealth of insight. It has shown us how legend can guide science, how technology can test tradition, and how a single monument can hold an entire universe of meaning. The true legacy of this quest may not be a chamber filled with gold or crystal, but a renewed sense of wonder, a humble acknowledgement that our understanding of antiquity is always evolving, always one discovery away from being rewritten. What we choose to believe lies in that darkness ultimately reveals what we value about our own origins, our capacity for knowledge, and our place in the long arc of time. The sands of Giza have guarded their secret for millennia, and in doing so, they have given us something perhaps equally precious, an enduring mystery that forever invites us to look deeper, question further, and remember that the greatest stories are often those waiting patiently just beyond the light. If you were granted one look into that hidden space, what do you truly hope to see? Share your theories in the comments below. Subscribe for more deep dives into history's unsolved mysteries. And remember, sometimes the most important truths are those that remain just beneath the surface.